Hello, everyone. Welcome to Relatively Credible. You're joined by Sam and Spencer. This is our first show. We are based in Orlando and we are two huge theme park fans. So this show is going to be all about our adventures around Orlando. There's going to be a bit of Disney, a bit of Universal in there, and some local restaurants and stuff like that. But first of all, Spencer, how have you been?
It's been great. It's been a crazy week here in Orlando. I've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm really excited. It's been fun. I've gotten to do a few things. I've got a few life updates that are going to relate to the podcast. So it's been great. How about you?
All good here. We went to the park, so we'll talk about that. We've got to talk about. I went to Space 220 restaurant, and this week there has just been this absolute craziness about the Figment Popcorn Bucket, and we've got to talk about it because I experienced some of it yesterday. I didn't buy one in the end, but why don't we kick it off with? Did you go to the parks this week? Which one did you go to? When did you go?
I actually did not go to a park this week.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. I did end up going to Disney Springs, though. I was actually on a date. And Disney Springs is a spot that you can go to when you run out of ideas for a date. You just end up going to Disney Springs. So I did go there, and we did we went to Everglazed. So that was my first experience at going to Everglazed. Which is, if you guys don't know, it's just a really cool donut shop. And I was actually asked a really good question while in line. We were waiting about 35 minutes. It was crazy busy. But I was actually asked the question of how does it compare to Voodoo Donuts? So we can talk about that a little bit too.
And I think it'd be an interesting topic to talk about dating at Disney or dating at Disney Springs. We'll have to talk about that later on in the show. Well, yeah, my wife and I went to Magic Kingdom yesterday and Epcot. And usually I get that. Epcot's my favourite park, and usually I get that little bit of Disney magic when I'm going in. But we started off in Magic Kingdom, and it was so busy. I thought it would have died off in January.
We experienced the same thing even in Disney Springs. We walked in, and I was telling the person I was dating with, who has actually never been to Disney Springs. She's also new to the Orlando area. When we were walking in, I was like, you're just going to see a flood of people. Like, as we're coming down the escalators, as everybody knows, in the parking lots, you just see a massive flood of people. It was crazy.
I can understand Epcot being busy because it was the first weekend of the art festival, which is only going to be on for a month this year. I remember last year, I'm sure it was on for longer than that, and they had the little booths around, the little kiosks. So they have the food there, but they also have the little kiosks selling art. But one thing they didn't have this year, I don't know if they're going to open it up later on, but there used to be there's a huge kind of function room at the back. As you go into the UK, it's in between the UK and Canada. There's they open it up and it's filled with art. And it might be because perhaps they're doing something with it, but I remember last year that was where the band were, where the live painting was, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of that this year. But it was so busy, Epcot. We ended up leaving at 5, which normally we stay right till the end. But we tried some interesting food, which we'll talk about. It was a bit of a busy day, unfortunately, but that's the beauty of being local, I guess, is we can kind of come and go. It's a shame when you come in here on holiday and you have to feel like you have to really draw the day out. But
absolutely, yeah, that's going to be a good topic that I think we're going to discuss in later episodes too, is just the difference of being local versus someone that's coming in for a vacation. I think that'll be a really good topic to discuss because it is quite different. I think for the folks that have moved to Orlando or maybe even have a second home here, talk to a few folks that do that. It's quite a different experience being local. So why do you think Magic Kingdom, for instance, is so busy this year?
I'm not sure whether it's because it's the 50th. I would think that this time of year, being the new year, would kind of be the lull. It is MLK, Martin Luther King Day on Monday. Maybe that has something to do with it. We went at rope drop, and straight away Space Mountain was 55 minutes. Now, the wait times, I think, are a bit subject to interpretation at the moment because we've not done It's a Small. We decided we were going to do stuff that we don't normally like doing, and so we did It's a Small World, and it posted 40-minute wait, and I bet we waited 12 minutes. That was it.
Yeah, that's kind of the talk around the internet still right now, is that the wait times are still a little inflated. I think they haven't quite recovered and dialed it in to the accurate wait times, since, pre-COVID. Ever since COVID hit, they've always, especially, as they were, doing things for physical distancing, accounting for that and capping. Ever since then, it seems like they haven't recovered to be able to dial in the wait times 100% accurate anymore. They used to be really good at it pre-COVID.
They did, and it was interesting. Splash Mountain is down at the moment, so that's completely drained. We ended up doing Tom Sawyer's Island, which we never do. Like, we haven't done it for 11 years. We haven't been on that Tom Sawyer Island. We haven't been local to. We've only been local to Orlando for a year, but we haven't done the actual Tom Sawyer Island for like 11 years. We were working out when we got there.
That'll be a good time, a good discussion, because I actually have never done Tom Sawyer's ever. I've never wanted to do it. I've always thought about other attractions, and I haven't done Tom Sawyer's.
It's amazing how big it is. That's what surprises you. Is it's actually quite a big space, and I think the problem with it is it would be a great absorber of people, but the problem is it has that raft. So it only has 2 rafts at any one time, and I think visually that puts people off. And the other thing they don't do in Disney World, which they do in Disneyland, although this is pre-COVID, so I don't know if they still do it now, you used to be able to kayak. There was these boats that you rode. They weren't on a track or anything, and you would row around the is it the Rivers of America there? You would actually row around it. And I was amazed when I first got on it, because I was like, oh, this is going to be a track. But it isn't. It's literally, you're rowing it, and there's a cast member that's kind of talking you through it. It's like a mini kind of dragon boat. It's not a race, really, but they row you right around it, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Before Christmas, we ate at the Space 220 restaurant, and it was pretty good, actually. I'll talk through a little about what we did, and I'm gonna try and pitch this to you, Spencer, because it is expensive, and because my wife and I eat more of a plant-based diet, and I know you also sort of follow similar diets.
Yes,
we didn't pre-book. So you can pre-book, but I think it's very difficult to get a reservation there. It certainly was before Christmas, but it's at Epcot, and if anybody doesn't know, it's by where Mission Space is. So one of my least favorite attractions at Epcot, even though Epcot's my favorite park, is the Mission Space. It's down the side of that, so you walk as if you go into the attraction, and it's down the side. And it's actually, I think, at the back of that. If you look on Google Earth, it's actually behind the ride building. And there's 2 queues. So you queue on one side for the bar. So there's a sit-down bar. And I think that is a queue all day. I don't think you can actually make a reservation and come back to sit at the bar. But when you first go in the park in the morning, it's all one queue. So everybody queues, and then there's a gentleman that comes down the line and says, oh, what are you interested in? And we managed to get a lunchtime reservation. Now, lunch is $55 per person. And I think we haven't got children, but I think it's around the $40 or $45 mark for kids. And then for dinner, that goes up to, well, let's just have a look on here while we're talking about it. So for dinner, that goes up to $79.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's definitely an investment. Because we plant-based, there's only a few things that you can pick from. There's only really one main course, but we started with this. I had the Blue Moon cauliflower, which was a tempura fried cauliflower, and I just asked for it without the blue cheese dust on it to make it vegan or make it plant-based. It was really good. I'll throw a picture up here. In fact, before I start talking about the main course, we also had some drinks as well, which was pretty cool. I had a mocktail. I had this Moon Rocks one. So it was coconut, blue cotton candy, candy syrup, lemonade, moon dust, and then you had like the popping candy on the top. And the guy told me not to put the popping candy in after you've drunk a little bit, because it'll all sit on the top. And not to go to town with it, just add a little bit. It was really good. It was super sweet, but very tasty.
Yeah, did they have, is moon dust just like a sugar topping? Is that what you think it is? What is moon dust?
Yeah, it was like a sugar topping on the top, and then the moon rocks are added on afterwards. And the moon rocks, as you'll see in this picture here, come in just the standard packaging that you can get them from the candy store on. So it's just like a bag, and then you just rip it open. And the drink also comes with these limited edition. Well, actually, it's a bit weird. It comes with trading cards. So there's a little pack of trading cards.
Okay.
And the server tells you when you get these trading cards, I think there's about 5 or 6 of trading cards. Like, oh, if you get one of the special edition ones, they're going on eBay for more than, they're going on eBay for quite a lot if you got one of these special ones, which immediately made me realize that this restaurant can't be run by Disney then if they're talking about eBay because of the crackdown. Yeah. And it's run by a separate company.
I didn't know that. I thought this was a Disney spot.
Well, yeah, it's run by, and I think it's the same caterers that do a few of the restaurants around there. And then just for the main course, we had this terra bolognese, which was corn linguine, tempeh ragu, macadamia nut ricotta, and zucchini for our English viewers. That's courgette and mushrooms, and it came and it looked like a manageable size, but it was huge. Like, it was one of those meals where I walked out and I was like, oh my god, this is too much. So that was the food. The food was pretty good, actually. It was, you're paying for the experience, really, and the experience is pretty cool. When you first go in, the premise is that you're going into this elevator. So you're basically turning up to like a spaceport. You go in this elevator and it's got 2 screens at the top and the bottom. I'm just showing a video up here as we talk about it. And then it takes you, it's pretty cool because it shows you in Epcot, and then it shows as it zooms out right up into so the restaurant's sort of connected in the story. The restaurant is connected by this elevator, and then it's a sort of a space station. And then when you go in there, it's got the huge screens. So the one wall is just sections of screens, and there's a globe that moves, and there's things that happen. Where we sat off to one side, so we couldn't see the kind of curvature of the Earth like the center screens could. There is stuff that happens, but it's not constant. It reminded me of one of those old back in the day when they used to have those Apple Mac screensavers, and like occasional stuff would happen, like a flying toaster would go across or something like that. It was kind of like that. But I would highly recommend it if you're a it's just my wife, just my wife and I. But if you've got a family of 4 or 5, or if there's like 2 adults and 2 kids, it's a very expensive day out. I mean, it is in line with some of the other restaurants, but
yeah, I mean that makes it one of the pricier spots on Disney property. Then at that point, at $80, it's going to be definitely in that upper tier. Even more expensive than Cinderella's Table, right? Places like that. That's up there. I could see that if you have a family of 4 or 5, you're looking at about a $300 bill.
We'll save this for another show, but we ate at Cinderella's Royal Table. Having said that, it was 10 years ago, but that at the time I do not think was worth the money at all. But that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Well, let's talk about dating at Downtown Disney. So
sure.
Where did you go and how did you get on?
Yeah, so we actually went to a restaurant local. So at the beginning of every year, I write down, instead of resolutions, I like to write down places to explore. So I actually wrote down, and in my iPhone in the notes, I wrote down about 10 restaurants that I really want to go to, and I've gauged friends and talked to people, looked up reviews, looked up magazine articles, things like that, just to write down my top 10 list. And one of the places in Orlando that's really hot right now is a place called Maxine's on Shine. Now, they've been around for a while, I think about 6-7 years. It's in the Mills neighborhood, if you know the Mills area. It's a really nice restaurant that's kind of tucked away. It's really quiet back there, which is surprising for Orlando, especially on a Saturday night. But great food, great atmosphere. Kind of felt a little divey. I hope that's okay to say, but it was really enjoyable. We got tucked away in a nice table inside. It was a little chilly outside for Orlando. I think it was in the low 60s, but still just a really nice night. I highly recommend Maxine's on Shine if you go there. I did get a glass of wine. We got a glass of wine that was really good. Wine is a new thing of mine, so I'm looking forward to trying out some wine at a few different locations. In especially like Disney Springs, like I haven't been to Wine Bar George yet. I did do a mobile order at Wine Bar George a while ago, but obviously didn't get to sit down and drink a nice bottle of wine. So that was really nice. Maxine's on Shine is highly recommended. I definitely say go to that. So that's where we stopped first. It was late, so our reservation was from 8 to 9, and so we were kind of thinking about where we wanted to go, and it was about 15 minutes away from Maxine's on Shine to get to Disney Springs in the Disney area. So we were kind of deciding on something to do. We threw around some ideas, and like I said at the very beginning of the episode, Disney Springs is just a great default. If you don't know what to do, you could just just ride on over to Disney Springs. So we took a stroll, and she had never actually even been to Disney Springs, so it was really cool to kind of show her the area, show her, what's going on at Disney Springs. It's obviously a great free place where you can just walk around. There's lots of places where you can kind of hide off and talk, just one-on-one without a lot of distractions, but there's also enough to do that can keep you busy. So if you have any awkward silences or things like that, it's, you can keep moving. So overall, it was a great date. We had a really good time, but, when we kind of held off to get dessert at Maxine's on Shine. We went to Everglazed. We thought about going to Everglazed. I've gotten cold brew from Everglazed, but I never actually ate a donut because they look intense. And we lined up there. We had about a 35 minute wait. So it was a good little wait. It's bumping this time around. Even at Disney Springs, we were surprised. So it was a near closing time. It was probably about 10 o'clock. They closed at 11. So they were out of a few donuts because they were kind of timing. We were going to get the Nutella donut, and we ended up getting the Oreo donut and splitting it. And then because they're huge. Yeah. And they're intense. And we ended up only eating about half of it. It was very good, but it was super sweet. Very sweet dessert. Very sweet donut. It would be tough to eat a whole one, honestly. So if you guys are going, probably be prepared to share with somebody. I'd recommend that. But while we were waiting in line, someone, it was their first time, and they actually asked me how it compared to Voodoo Donuts. And let me tell you, it's quite a difference. So here's a few notes about why Everglazed is different, or how they're different than Voodoo. The donuts are a lot bigger. You're going to get almost double the amount of donut that you would get at Voodoo Donuts on a regular. You're probably going to spend twice as much on a single donut that you would get at Voodoo. They're a little bit more pricey. I think they're for their specialty donuts, they're probably around $5-6 a piece. Again, you're getting a good sized cake, honestly, at that point. They're very sweet. They're pretty unique toppings, but they don't have quite the selection that Voodoo has. Voodoo has a lot of different styles and types of donuts. So overall, though, great experience. Love the atmosphere of Everglazed. There's not a lot of seating. If you go to the back, though, they have some tucked away extra seating. It's right next to Splitsville, so it's pretty loud. There's that bar up front in Splitsville, so people are pretty active and they're drinking, and I kind of like that energy. I like when just being around people where you hear chatter and you can kind of eavesdrop, and I love that stuff. That's one of my favorite things about Disney and Disney Springs in general, is to people watch and listen in on conversations. That might be rude, but I love it. So we had a good time. We actually, here's one thing that Everglazed doesn't have, is they don't have just single shots of espresso. So if you like coffee and you want just a espresso, you can't get that at Everglazed. They do have hot drip coffee, and they have cold brew, and they have really good options. But if you want espresso, you're probably just going to have to hop over to Starbucks, which is just right around the corner there. You have to go down the strip of the Marvel store and the Star Wars store and the cigar shop. But once you pass that, you'll run into Starbucks. And from there, we had We got a couple shots of espresso. I got a cafe Americano. But I just want to say this. After going to Starbucks, if you go to the outside seating, there's a little outside area behind Starbucks. Again, if you're on a date, it's awesome back there. You have a great view. You're like right next to the big balloon, on the side there. It's a really nice scene. So we sat out there. It was cool. We split our donut and we had warm espresso drinks. So it was a nice date.
I have eaten at that Everglazed Donuts. They do a plant-based donut as well, which is purple. And it's when you bite into it, it's purple in the center as well. I'm going to be say something controversial. If you are plant-based, or maybe you don't eat dairy or something like that, I think the Everglazed donuts are better than the Voodoo plant-based ones, because the Voodoo one, I've been to the Voodoo in San Diego. I think there's one. I've been to the one in Austin. And I've been to the one in Universal Studios. And the one in Universal Studios, for me, it's been hit or miss. Sometimes you get it and they're great, but sometimes, and I think this is because they're obviously making it with different ingredients. Sometimes they can be taste a little bit stale, or like they've been out a while.
Yep. They're more dry.
I really like the Everglazed one, and I like that. Is it called? It's not called the Boston cream one, is it? The cream donut that they have at Voodoo is really good.
Alabama, so
cream, I think
it's like ube, right? It's made out of ube, UBE.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's their vegan option, and it looks beautiful too. It's a good looking donut. All of their donuts look awesome. They look fantastic.
Yeah, if you get it at the right time, they're awesome. But I would highly, and you're right with that Everglazed. I put down a full one, but my wife put down like half. Helen put down half.
Yeah, they're big. Yeah, they're big.
Speaking of big things that are purple, that was a really tenuous link. But have you been on this? Have you been following this absolute craziness with the Figment Popcorn Bucket? Right. This is crazy. So essentially, it's for the art festival that they've got at Epcot. One of the many things that they released, obviously a lot of specialty food items, was this figment-shaped popcorn bucket. Now, usually there is a little bit of fanfare for the popcorn buckets, isn't there? There's like a Mickey and Minnie in their iridescent outfits, and there's usually a queue. But this, for some reason, went insane. I think it was released around Thursday, and people just went absolutely nuts for this thing. And the queue was at times 5 hours long for this. Not only that, but it actually made the New York Post did a story on it as well, and they said 7 hours, but most people think it's about 5 hours. The crazy thing with it, Spencer, is that the queue goes from right up near where the construction walls are, near Living with the Land, and it follows all the way around. Now, they're only selling... I do not understand this, but they're only selling it in that one location. Remember, for the food and wine, there was like a pho place there. There's like a restroom. It's right by the Starbucks, if anybody's familiar with that part of Epcot. Where the Starbucks is, the one that's, as you go into the World Showcase, as you're facing towards the Canadian Pavilion, it's there. And what was crazy about it was, even yesterday when we went, there was a cast member in the car park holding one of the Figment popcorn buckets, and everyone's like, "Oh, where did you get that from? Where did you get that from?" And he was telling them that, "Hey, I got it at the the queue's only 45 minutes." So he was kind of pitching it himself, which was interesting. But yeah, the queue was still ridiculously long when we got there. This cast member said about 45 minutes, but I can't, the length that it was when we saw it, if it was 5 hours from where they were showing it on Thursday, then it was at least 2 hours from where we saw it landed. But there's people literally, because you can buy 2 per person, so it's limited 2 per person, but there's people walking around, loads of people walking around with 4 across them, like just 4 of these Figment things. Figment popcorn buckets, and they are massive. They are the biggest popcorn bucket that I've ever seen Disney make. They are huge. Now the question is, why are people doing this? And if you look on eBay, no joke. So they're like $26 or $25 or something. But people are literally taking a picture of them in the park, and you see here $109 or best offer $185. Look, 16 bids, 9 minutes left, 115, and you've even got, it's that popular. Look at these, how many there are on eBay. There's people trolling these eBay sellers and putting sketches of Figment on. So look, there's a bad artwork sketch of Figment. Here's somebody that's just drawn Figment on the side of a disposable cup, and there's like,
and it's got 14 bids. It's got 14 bids.
14
Goodness.
bids. It is. I mean, if you see it in this person's hand here, it is no joke. It is huge. And the other thing as well, these people that had 4 of them on, they must be quite, because you can wear them around your neck, but they must be quite uncomfortable, because you can see the little wing here that he's got. That wing sticks out the back, and it's kind of the handle to open the popcorn at the back, and that would dig it in you. But I've never seen this, the amount of people walking around with this Figment bucket, or like 4 of these Figment buckets. People have just gone absolutely nuts for it. And the other thing as well, which surprised me, is that they were just bringing these boxes out like this and just unwrap it, and as soon as they were getting them out, people were buying them. But normally Disney would never let you see the packing boxes. I mean, you know, the cast members are supposed to take everything out of the boxes, because that's too much of the behind the scenes, isn't it, that they don't like to show.
Right. But,
I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, yeah, the first thing that came to mind as you were talking about it is really just like, man, there's that much desire to bring Figment back. You know, that people want to see Figment, which is, I think people have always wanted to see Figment, hence why they added him to the ride, right? So I don't know why they ever got rid of it, but now they're capitalizing on, you know, I guess, you know, Figment being very limited. You know, Disney's tapping into that. So I find it really funny that they've pushed out Figment, and now they're selling a popcorn bucket. They're selling some Figment merchandise, but otherwise they've removed him completely. So that's the first thing that popped to mind. But the other thing is, it sounds like if folks are carrying, you know, 4 around their neck, it seems like Disney should have potentially limited them more. You know, they maybe that was something they could have done better. Because I mean, like, if you go to like and maybe you can say that you have a family of 4, but it's obviously not what's happening, right? And if it's a big enough bucket, maybe they could have shared versus having 4 individual large buckets. But it's really a shame, because there's obviously people that do this on the regular basis with Disney merchandise, where they buy up everything, and it's not really for their enjoyment. It's really just to try to turn a profit, get a quick buck. I think, you know, you even see that at the World of Disney, right? Like now they're really adding, and they're limiting a lot of items. And I think that's a good move. Get it in the hands of the people that are really just going to keep it and enjoy it, versus, you know, trying to make a quick buck. What are your thoughts?
I sell stuff on eBay, but nothing that I ever buy at Disney. I would never go with the purpose intention of buying this. And you know the new US tax law that PayPal's got to report transactions over $600. I wonder whether that'll quell some of this. But I mean, on one hand, Disney have got they've obviously got a real problem with these eBay sellers, haven't they? Because they are limiting things to 2 per person. Apparently, allegedly, they're cancelling people's annual passes if they catch them doing it. Right. But the thing is that the only way they can quell it is for eBay to stop these listings. But eBay are never. This is the tale as old as time. eBay want people to sell things for a lot more, because it's a percentage based listing fee, isn't it? A final valuation fee. So eBay aren't gonna step in here. I was joking with my wife that we try to, when we go to Disney, we try and limit what we buy. It's hard because you're being bombarded by it. We try and limit what we buy, and we knew that Figment bucket, it does look cool. It looks really cool. I'm a fan of Figment because I love old school Epcot. Like, original Epcot when you went in the 80s is completely different now, and that original Journey into Imagination, before it was Journey into Your Imagination, was a phenomenal ride. They should have never taken it out, and we know why they did it, because I think it lost its sponsor, and there was a lot of animatronics going on there. But Dreamfinder and Figment, hopefully they bring Dreamfinder back in some guys now that there's this love for Figment. But it was one of those, I was joking with Helen, I was like, yeah, this is that thing that we would queue to buy it because we like it, and then the next day we would wake up and we'd be like, what are we going to do with it? Like, where would we put this ginormous popcorn stand? But it's the other thing I couldn't get your perspective on this is Disney. Yes, there's this huge demand for it, but we're talking Festival of the Arts. They only were selling it at one location. I can't understand why they didn't sell it at every location there was popcorn, or have it. The other thing that I thought, that they're big on this, like, mobile ordering, aren't they now? They could have had a cast member in one of the drink carts just walking up and down the queue, selling them from the scan your mobile order thing, because they're all about that in the shops, where you can go on My Disney Experience if people aren't familiar. You can actually scan the goods, pay for it, and then you just show the QR code, and then the cast members scan it just to prove that and then they just check, oh yeah, you've bought this. So you don't actually go to. So I don't understand why they didn't do that.
I guess they're just trying to bring people into the Festival of the Arts. I think it's just, I think that's just the move, is they're just trying to keep those tickets there. And if they have a limited item that they're going to keep trying to sell, and people are really seeking after it. And I think it might be a smart move to limit it to a single spot. So, because, I mean, that's 5 hours. People are standing in a queue where they're still making money, but they're still clearing up space for folks to do whatever they want, right, outside of that. So I think it's a good business move. It's an interesting business move. But yeah, I would. It might be that they just didn't want everybody to have it, and it's maybe a move for them to have to seek after it a bit. I don't know. Because I agree with you. That would have been a nice move if they had made it just more available at all the different locations that are selling popcorn, where you can get other popcorn buckets. But I think there's something to it. I think there's a strategy there in mind to limit it to a single spot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could kill the eBay thing overnight if they listed it on the shopdisney.com.
Yeah, My Disney Experience, for sure.
If they had the on Shop Disney, if they had it there and you could buy it with a reasonable shipping, then there would be none of this. And you're right. But the flip side of that is, yes, you're drawing people into the festival, but what you want is for them to walk around and buy the food and buy the drink and stuff like that. And if you've got somebody, hundreds, if not thousands of people queuing for hours on end for the popcorn bucket, then are they spending that? And the other thing as well is that the location was also a food place as well. So you couldn't just go and get food. You were in the queue for Figment, and then you were in the queue for the food. So you couldn't if you fancied this grilled cheese thing or a few of the others, then you were really stuck with having to queue in that. There wasn't like a secondary queue to, if you're getting the food, go for the food. Yeah. The other thing with it as well is I love Epcot, and I wasn't feeling the magic yesterday because the three Caballeros was down. That was and then there was a Living with the Land, which is my favorite ride. There was somebody behind us who was narrating the whole ride to like their party that they were with, and they were like, and then this is this bit, and then this is this bit. And Living with the Land, I feel like, is one of the few rides where you're kind of chilling out on it, aren't you? You're kind of relaxing. Yeah. It's such a great ride, and we'll do a whole show about my love for Living with the Land. But it's kind of, but this lady, she was, obviously very excited to be on the ride, but she was kind of narrating it to her family. And look here, and this is showing the agriculture, and so she was kind of just a step ahead of the the actual narration that they had.
Right,
So you could say that it was so that was pretty funny. You're right. If this elevates Figment up and they start incorporate this, they redo the journey into your imagination, because that thing never has a queue more than 5 minutes. I mean, it could be a real gem of a ride, that, but they could do something really clever with it.
Right. It's not a ride you typically go back to. It's a ride where I show new people. You know, if somebody's never been to Disney World, we go back. I'll show them. We'll go do it once, but we don't typically go back. You know, it's not that type of ride. So I think there could be a lot of improvement around Figment. I think Figment is a great character that they could, and I think this might show them. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just doing some market research to see how much Figment sells still. But I mean, Figment's always been loved. You know, Figment is, I think they knew that. I think they knew that these would sell like hotcakes.
You're right. That, as well as the Journey into Your Imagination ride, they could do anything with that, because it's about imagination. There's no constraint in which they're, you know, it's not like Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're confined the ride within the story of Guardians of the Galaxy. With the Figment ride, there's literally, they could go anywhere with it. It could be a roller coaster, it could be a simulator ride, although I hope they don't do that. They could do a really cool. The end scene with all of the different animatronic figments is the reason to go on the ride. That's pretty cool. But the rest of it is just kind of like slapstick comedy, and it's just not really very well thought out, I don't think so.
Well, it could use some modernization, right? Like, when's the last time that ride's been updated? You know, it's been, forever. And think about how technology has advanced, that they could utilize and strategize on how they could, you know, play around with the imagination theme of, you know, the future, right? That's the whole thing about what Epcot's about, right? Looking towards the future. So they could do a lot around it, especially with modern technology.
When I was a kid, that area was quite lively, because they had the full Journey into Imagination, and then they had the Michael Jackson 3D experience, the Captain EO, which was, I mean, that was huge at the time. That theatre's just being used for Pixar shorts, which is actually a pretty, if you're really warm in Epcot, if you're really suffering from the heat, go into that Pixar, because they've got some like cool little takeaways. Anyway, well, that's been a really cool kind of inaugural show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think this is we've talked about, we have tons of ideas. So I'm looking forward to continuing this and getting in and digging into those ideas. We've got some fun ones lined up.
If this is your first time watching us, which it will be, we would love you to be one of the very early subscribers, please, and then hit the notification bell so you can follow us in our antics. And if you're interested in giving us some show ideas, please leave a comment and we'll get back to you. So we really appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see you next time on Relatively Credible.